I want to start with talking a little bit about grandmothers. I had two, like a lot of you. One came from America, the other one came from Iraq. But the grandmother that had a lot of influence in my life is this lady. This is Grandmother Spider. She spends her days weaving the web of life, inviting each and every one of us to be part of a very important action of connecting our work together towards creating what we are here today to explore, what it is, action towards change. When I was a child, in a way, I sensed the world through this understanding of connection between all the people around me, connection that can really help us work together. And also, already as a child, I understood that this understanding was very different than the way the reality evolved around me. And at one point, when I was maybe 5 years old, I decided I have to store this secret deep inside me until I was ready to let it grow. And as I stored it so deeply, I got disconnected from it. And it took me years to find again the connection that allowed me to walk and work in the world in a way I felt was important. And this journey of finding my way back into this little secret that I hid inside me became, in a way, the journey of my life. And this journey was interwoven together with my search towards a valid and worthwhile role to sustainable design. I like to look at the world of sustainable design through different action points. And inspired by this vision of connection and of webs of connection, I like to look at it in 4 different ways that I will share with you today. And the first one is the question of dancing. So you know how our actions, many times, as was mentioned before also in the industrial era, are very much disconnected and very much walking around our needs answered in a very separate way. And the first way I like to explore is how can we find a way to dance with the natural environment around us, finding a way to answer our needs in a way that allows us to move forward. And I like to explain this idea through this very simple design by a group called Civil Twilight Collective. And this is a very simple design that decides to dance together with the moon. So these very simple street lights change the amount of lights they emit according to the strength of the moon. So when the moon is fully shining, they let it dance with its whole glory and light the city like it used to do in the old times. And when the moon is very small, then the lights can bring their light to the environment. And this form of dancing allows not only to save a lot of energy, but also to reconnect back to a very important natural phenomena we have in our life. In my own work, I connect to this idea of dancing through this project that's called Windy Light. Windy Light is a street light that is designed to dance with the wind that is in the city. And Windy Light is there to be able to explore this idea of the strongest light there is, the strongest wind there is, the strongest the light. Most of the time we connect to the wind energy in a very strong way away from the city, but actually the wind is very much around us. And I started exploring this as the top of my apartment building in Tel Aviv. I started exploring how we can connect to the small, subtle winds that are in our environments, and slowly started learning these patterns and how they act. So using different, very simple scientific tools, learning and connecting to the different ways the wind act in the city. So to create this model, we started with developing the very one element we call the windy wheel. And in very simple hands-on techniques, developed and continue developing different aerodynamic shapes that allow us to take the most of the wind and still maintain this idea of the ability to dance to this natural phenomena. And our goal there is to create this one windy wheel and to translate it into many different sorts of lights for different actions and different settings and so on that allow to color our cities with dancing objects. In order to test our progress, we also created these man-pedaled wind tunnels to allow us to low-cost check and test our progress. And when the winter came, we also created more static wind tunnel that allows us to take things forward. And in the end, the goal of Windy Light is to find this very subtle connection of objects that answer human needs and create a direct link between the natural environment and what we really need with the miracle of light. With my next project, which is called the Waterfall, we try to do the same with morning dew. You know, this very subtle phenomena that we could normally overlook. But if we think about it, that morning dew covers the entire Earth every day, we can already understand how significant a phenomenon it is. And with this project Waterfall, we try to develop this home appliance that allows to collect rain during the rainy season and allows to collect dew water and act as a shading element during the dry season. So these questions of how we can connect in our cities to these natural elements around us start with asking very funny questions about what do our buildings really want to eat. Maybe they can eat compost, they can eat rain, they can eat other substances, and try to look in very different eyes of potential at the reality as it is, and look through it. And through this looking, we can maybe be invited to see the unseen and see with new eyes what we normally tend to overlook. And as a great-granddaughter of that celebrated weaver I was telling you about, I try to look at the world in this way and try to find these sources of unseen abundance. And this, for example, this pile of earth, what I call man-made mountains, are pile of earth that construction builders sometimes throw in the middle of a natural reserve because it's the cheapest way to get rid of this material. So I started exploring what I can do, and in my research I came to this picture. It was taken by Daphna Yalon, an Israeli artist, and it was taken actually here in India with exploring the techniques of building with soil. And when I saw this image, I immediately thought it could have great potential of producing low-cost objects that can be also portable and not only standing and connected to architecture as it is here today. So I started doing this very extensive research and explore different techniques also from the Middle East. And with this knowledge, went into the forests and collected different materials that I needed for my work. And I started doing this process of developing a technique and a method to create standalone furniture with this very, very simple method. So it uses 100% organic materials. It uses this earth that I collect as a renewable, recycled resource, and different agricultural waste, different types of straw, some flowers, some herbs. And when I pressed it into the mold and let it stay, it hardens using only the natural heat around us. And then slowly it dries to become solid, durable, standalone furniture. And the outer cover is flax oil. So these are a few first prototypes. They vary by color because of the different source of earth. And in this process, I also found out that this technique also existed in my very own family. Because if we started talking about grandmothers, then when I told my father what I was working on, he actually told me that my grandmother used to build mud ovens in Iraq many, many years ago. So these are, as I said, some of our first prototypes. And this technique also allows you, when you had enough with your furniture, to break it down and renew it to whatever other furniture that you want, using another mold in kind of a do-it-yourself technique. So this project is trying to promote, on the larger scale, the local production for local use through local available organic waste, with the production of independent social production units. So creating a whole vision of organic products with a very, very socially sound way of production. I will also mention some projects by my students from the Holon Institute of Technology in Israel. And this project is done by a student named Dudu. And he did this orange factory, starting with the understanding that tons and tons of oranges and other fruits are thrown away every year all around the world just because they want to maintain the prices of the oranges. And he started thinking, what can be done to create another life for these oranges without needing to really change this big strategies, governmental strategies. And he came up with this orange factory. And this orange factory is a portable orange factory that, instead of oranges coming to the factory goes to the orange fields, and where they're doing different activities with families and creating jam and wine and other products directly from the oranges on spot, and in that creating an alternative economy for these oranges. So that was a little bit about seeing the unseen. And one step backwards into this project, another next step of it is the fact of creating molds for personal productions that spreads the knowledge and allows everybody to create their own products. And this takes me to the next idea, the idea of bridging the gap. Bridging the gap is the point where sometimes as designers, what we really have to do is rehabilitate people from being so dependent on us. We created a situation where so many people are so passive and never, ever being able to create their products as they did for so many centuries. So this exploration of how we can take back this idea of spreading the idea of making. And this is one project, again, by one of our students, Yael Livne, where she took this very, very simple crate of milk and created 6 steps in which everybody can make their own seat and storage for their bicycle. Or this other project by another student, Yaniv Brafman, that worked with the fact that a lot of people want to build their own mud houses nowadays. And he identified that the most time-consuming action is the fact of screening the earth. So he created this foldable, you see it goes into this very small box, foldable machine that many communities can share together to create their own houses. So this idea of knowing is one I play with a lot, because in my career there was a very long time that I was very unhappy with this word design. And it took me really time to understand what was really the problem there. And when I analyzed it, I found out that the fact that we were taught to know was really the biggest problem of design. And only when I agreed to strip that off of me and really take into the idea of not knowing is when I really started being a designer. So, like mentioned before a little bit, only when you can surrender to questions is where your work really starts. So, once again, we were humbled to remember that the knowledge is not what we bring. We are only mediators in many, many ways. And if we go back to the metaphor of the spider woman and that grandmother that all of us share, I really invite you here today to remember that each and every one of us is a you, is a very important part in this web of life. And what we do as a small action that makes us part of this web and allows to bring another life into this web is what really matters. Thank you very much.